This is 3I Atlas. 3 stands for the third, I for interstellar. Atlas is the observatory network that first discovered this interstellar visitor.
NASA just fed data from 3I Atlas into Google's most advanced AI, and the results shocked scientists in a way no one saw coming. Now, the internet is buzzing with theories. Was this mysterious object an alien probe, a message from deep space? But the truth is far stranger than the rumors. What Google's AI uncovered wasn't about aliens at all. It was about medicine. In secret trials, NASA's space doctors watched this AI achieve diagnostic accuracy once thought impossible.
What if an interstellar object whirling through our solar system is actually a nuclear-powered spacecraft sent by aliens to test how humans respond?
And if it can heal astronauts millions of miles away, what could it mean for us here on Earth? What 3I Atlas really revealed. So here's the truth. NASA did feed 3I Atlas data into Google's AI. At least that's what the viral posts claimed. Thousands of people shared it, convinced we'd just confirmed alien technology in deep space. TikTok edits, Twitter threads, YouTube truth bombs, all pushing the same angle. NASA scientists secretly tested whether this interstellar visitor was artificial, and Google's AI cracked the code. Sounds juicy, right? But here's the twist. That entire story is false, completely made up. But here's what makes it fascinating. The reason it spread so quickly is that the timing looked perfect. Let me explain. On July 1st, 2025, the Atlas telescope system in Chile spotted something extraordinary, a cosmic traveler racing into our solar system. Astronomers named it 3I Atlas, the third confirmed interstellar object humanity has ever tracked. Just 7 miles wide, traveling at more than 130,000 miles per hour, and carrying ancient water ice, possibly 7 billion years old. That alone is mind-blowing. It's basically a time capsule from before our solar system was even born. And when you add in Harvard physicist Avi Loeb's comments that its unusual orbit had only a 0.2% probability of being natural, and maybe, just maybe, it was alien tech, well, you can see why people jump to conclusions. So, when the internet saw headlines about NASA and Google AI working together, people connected the dots themselves. Wait a second, NASA's got a new AI system? They're studying 3I Atlas? Boom, it must be alien tech. But that's the misleading trail. Because the real NASA-Google collaboration was happening in a completely different corner of science. And honestly, it's far more shocking than aliens. Here's what actually happened. Months before 3I Atlas was even discovered, NASA had already partnered with Google Cloud to build something called the Crew Medical Officer Digital Assistant, or CMODA for short. This wasn't about comets or space rocks. This was about keeping astronauts alive. See, the deeper you go into space, the harder it gets to phone home for help. On a mission to Mars, a simple question to a flight surgeon on Earth could take 45 minutes round trip because of the speed of light delay. Imagine having a medical emergency in that gap. You twist an ankle, feel a sharp pain in your side, lose hearing in one ear. Waiting 45 minutes just to hear "try ibuprofen" isn't exactly ideal. That's where Google came in. They offered their Vertex AI platform, and NASA trained it with years of spaceflight medical data, real astronaut health logs, and clinical scenarios. The result? An AI that could analyze speech, text, and even images to give astronauts real-time medical support. Basically, a digital doctor that lives on board the spacecraft. Now here's where it gets wild. NASA didn't just throw this idea around. They tested it hard. They ran the AI through 3 scenarios astronauts might actually face: an ankle injury, flank pain, and ear pain. 3 physicians, one of them an astronaut, graded the AI across 4 categories: patient assessment, history taking, clinical reasoning, and treatment planning. The numbers shocked everyone. 88% diagnostic accuracy for ankle injuries, 80% for ear pain, 74% for flank pain. These results weren't just good. They were human-level good, sometimes better. Dr. David Crewley from Google admitted that they hadn't expected numbers like this so early. Think about that for a second. A machine trained on astronaut health data was diagnosing injuries and illnesses as accurately as seasoned doctors, all without a physical examination. And here's why these matter. Space medicine isn't like Earth medicine. In microgravity, your body doesn't behave the same way. Fluids shift, bones weaken, cuts don't clot the same. Even the equipment is limited. You can't just wheel in an MRI machine on the ISS, let alone on a Mars mission. So, for AI to navigate all that and still land correct diagnoses, that's a paradigm shift. But the internet never saw that nuance. Instead, they fused 2 completely separate timelines, the discovery of 3I Atlas and the announcement of CMO Day, into one explosive theory about AI analyzing alien technology. Here's the irony. That viral conspiracy actually did NASA a favor. Normally, breakthroughs in space medicine barely make headlines outside niche science circles. But now, because everyone thought Google's AI was decoding alien probes, millions of people accidentally stumbled into a story about real AI transforming healthcare in space. And in some ways, isn't that more incredible than aliens? Because aliens are still just speculation. But this is happening right now. And AI has already proven it can diagnose astronauts with human-level accuracy in conditions where human doctors can't even be present. So, when people ask, what did NASA really find when they fed 3I Atlas into Google AI? The real answer isn't about comets at all. It's about a medical assistant quietly being built that could one day keep humans alive millions of miles from Earth. And that leads to the next big question. If this AI can pull off medical accuracy that even space doctors didn't think was possible, how exactly did NASA and Google build it? What else is it capable of? And what happens when the system is brought here on Earth? The medical miracle. When NASA's chief flight surgeon first saw the CMO-DA test results, he didn't believe them. 88% diagnostic accuracy on ankle injuries? That seemed impossible, especially for a system that couldn't even touch the patient. His first reaction was simple: run the trials again. Think about why this mattered. Traditional space medicine has always relied on human doctors in Houston, who are able to review scans, perform physical examinations, and directly consult with astronauts through live video. Space crews send down reports, doctors give instructions, and the safety net works, at least in low Earth orbit, where communication is instant. But on a Mars mission, that safety net disappears. Now imagine an AI trained not just on medical textbooks, but on decades of astronaut health logs, achieving results that rivaled, and in some ways even exceeded, human doctors. For NASA, this wasn't just a technical milestone. It shattered the assumption that only a fully trained physician could handle medical care in deep space. Dr. Shannon Moynihan, NASA's Deputy Chief Medical Officer, put it bluntly in one internal presentation. "We've been planning Mars missions assuming we'd need highly trained medical officers aboard every spacecraft. These results suggest we might be able to provide expert-level medical care with just basic training and AI assistance." And she wasn't exaggerating. The testing methodology was serious. NASA didn't just toss random symptoms at the AI and hope for good answers. They used the same evaluation system that medical schools use to decide if someone is ready to become a doctor: the Objective Structured Clinical Examination, or OSCE. This isn't a pop quiz. It's a rigorous test of clinical reasoning, patient assessment, history taking, and treatment planning. So let's talk about those scenarios. The ankle injury trial was the most shocking. Volunteers described symptoms, including pain descriptions, swelling, mobility limitations, and how the injury occurred. The AI, powered by Google's MedGemma models, processed the language, cross-referenced the descriptions against its database of space medicine, and even analyzed uploaded images. What floored NASA wasn't just the 88% accuracy, it was the reasoning. The AI asked smart follow-up questions, the kind a seasoned ER doctor would ask. Was the pain worse with pressure? Did the swelling increase overnight? And had the patient heard a popping sound? It could even flag subtle indicators of dangerous complications like compartment syndrome. That wasn't a lucky guess. That was clinical reasoning at scale. And then came the ear pain scenario. Now, this one sounded almost unfair. How can an AI, without an otoscope or the ability to physically inspect an ear, accurately diagnose? Yet it reached 8% accuracy. It did this by leaning on the details. Was the pain sharp or dull? Was it accompanied by hearing loss, dizziness, or fever? Did the patient describe vocal changes or a clogged sensation? The AI pieced these patterns together into likely diagnoses. NASA's ENT consultants admitted they didn't think this was possible, but it was happening right in front of them. The flank pain test showed 74% accuracy. That might sound weaker, but the complexity was much higher. Differentiating between kidney stones, muscle strain, or something deadly like an aortic dissection is hard even for physicians. But the AI got most of them right and, crucially, didn't bluff when it wasn't sure. Instead of guessing, it flagged uncertainty and recommended extra monitoring or simple diagnostic tests. In space, that honesty can save lives. A human doctor will tell you, "I don't know," when needed. For the first time, so did a machine. So, what made this system so effective? NASA's team highlighted 4 big breakthroughs. First, advanced natural language processing. The AI didn't just parse symptoms, it understood nuance. Words like stabbing versus aching carried weight in their calculations. That ability to read between the lines is what separates a clumsy chatbot from something resembling a physician. Second, spaceflight-specific training data. Unlike most healthcare AIs, which are trained on millions of hospital cases from Earth, CMO Day was trained on astronaut logs, space medicine case studies, and protocols for microgravity. It wasn't cluttered with irrelevant conditions that never happen in orbit. Third, multimodal analysis. This wasn't text only. The system could combine speech, photographs, and even basic vital signs from spacecraft sensors. That blend of inputs gave it a richer picture than words alone. And finally, predictive risk assessment. The AI wasn't just labeling illnesses, it was predicting what might go wrong if nothing was done, suggesting monitoring schedules and even triaging multiple issues. When 2 medical problems were presented at once, it consistently prioritized the life-threatening one. That's the exact judgment call doctors train for years to make. Now, here's something that actually boosted NASA's confidence. The AI wasn't overconfident. When it wasn't sure, it said so. It would say, possible kidney stone versus muscle strain, recommend hydration, monitoring, and follow-up if symptoms worsen. That humility matched human physicians and made the system safer. Dr. Emmanuel Urquieta, NASA's chief medical officer, summed it up in one line. This system isn't trying to replace physicians, it's providing physician-level reasoning when physicians aren't available. And the ripple effects are massive. Training a physician astronaut costs roughly $15 million over 5 to 7 years. If missions could instead rely on AI-assisted crews with only basic medical training, NASA could cut costs dramatically while still keeping astronauts safe. That's not just a budget win. That could make the difference between a 6-person crew to Mars and a 12-person crew. Every seat saved is millions of dollars. But here's the kicker. This breakthrough doesn't just live in space. The lessons from CMODA are already spilling into Earth-based medicine. Remote Antarctic research stations, offshore oil rigs, disaster zones where hospitals are inaccessible. If an AI can diagnose accurately in zero gravity with limited data, it can help rural doctors with spotty internet or medics in war zones. Google's team has even admitted they're adapting the MedGemma Foundation models, the same ones used for NASA, into broader healthcare tools. The constraints of space medicine, no immediate specialists, no advanced equipment, only basic vitals, force them to innovate in ways that make their AI stronger everywhere. What shock did NASA doctors feel at those test results? That's the same shock frontline clinicians could soon feel when an AI catches something subtle they might have missed. And that's why the viral story about 3i Atlas almost works as an unintentional metaphor. Everyone was distracted by the idea of alien probes, but the real alien-level breakthrough was happening quietly in medical AI. Something that will outlast comets, conspiracies, and clickbait. Because here's the truth. When NASA fed 3i Atlas data into Google's AI, the results didn't prove the existence of aliens. They proved something more extraordinary. That machines can reason about the human body in ways we thought only doctors could. So, the real question isn't just whether AI will keep astronauts alive on Mars. It's what happens when those same systems start transforming healthcare back here on Earth. Will it make doctors obsolete? Or will it finally deliver expert-level care to people who've never had access before? That's the revolution brewing behind NASA's space program. And it ties into something bigger: how AI is quietly becoming the backbone of exploration itself. Not just medicine, but navigation, engineering, and even mission planning. Which brings us to the next part of this story: NASA's broader AI revolution, and why the same technology that keeps astronauts alive might also be running their ships, their science, and, perhaps one day, their survival on Mars. NASA's hidden AI empire. So, when NASA fed 3i Atlas data into Google's AI, and the results shocked scientists, it wasn't just about proving the medical system could think like a doctor. That was only one piece of the puzzle. What most people outside the space community don't realize is that NASA has quietly built an empire of artificial intelligence. While the internet obsesses over alien probes and TikTok conspiracies, NASA has been rolling out AI systems across almost every corner of exploration. Medicine was just the opening act. The real story is that NASA now operates one of the most advanced AI infrastructures in human history, most of which came online in just the past 2 years. These aren't small research projects. They're mission-critical systems running on rovers, satellites, telescopes, and even inside astronaut training centers. Together, they form a hidden network of machine intelligence that is already changing how humanity explores space. Take Mars, for example. The Perseverance rover isn't just a remote-controlled science lab. Thanks to machine learning, it can decide on its own which rocks are worth drilling into. That matters because sending a message from Earth to Mars takes about 14 minutes each way, making live instructions impossible. The AI on board has to think for itself, and it does, with staggering success. In one analysis, Perseverance's algorithms hit 94% accuracy in identifying scientifically valuable rock samples, outperforming many human geologists working under time pressure. Think about that. A machine on another planet is already surpassing trained scientists here on Earth. But Mars isn't the only place NASA's AI is working in the shadows. Back home, the Atlas telescope network scans the skies nightly for anything that might threaten Earth. We've all seen headlines about planet-killer asteroids, but what you probably haven't heard is that the first line of defense is AI. Atlas processes over 100,000 images a night, automatically flagging moving objects. It doesn't need humans staring at screens. It just spots them. This is the same system that picked up 3I Atlas, but while headlines chased aliens, the real story was planetary defense. NASA's AI is literally guarding Earth from impacts that could wipe out entire cities. Earth observation is also getting a huge AI upgrade. NASA now embeds AI directly into satellites, enabling them to be smart enough to redirect themselves. Imagine a hurricane forming in the Atlantic. Instead of waiting for human operators, the satellite recognizes the storm and zooms in automatically. NASA calls this dynamic targeting, and it means satellites can capture disasters, volcanic eruptions, and wildfires in real time. That's a massive shift from reactive science to proactive planetary surveillance. Few people know about another project called Atlas, not the telescope, but an AI that acts like a living brain for NASA's archives. NASA has millions of pages of mission procedures and engineering manuals, but astronauts don't have time to dig through them during emergencies. So Atlas was built to answer questions in plain English and generate solutions instantly. In a Mars simulation, when a life support system failed, Atlas cross-referenced spare parts, identified repair procedures, and produced a full plan in less than 3 minutes, something that would take human engineers hours. It's like Google search, except instead of trivia, the answers save lives. Partnerships with Silicon Valley push this even further. Google isn't just behind the medical AI. Its Vertex AI now helps NASA analyze satellite images in days instead of months. Those climate maps showing deforestation and glacier melt, they're powered by AI, crunching millions of images. NASA is also testing Google's quantum-inspired optimization to plan complex trajectories, such as missions involving multiple planetary flybys. These aren't problems you solve on paper. They're puzzles only AI can crack. Even communication is managed by machine learning now. NASA's Deep Space Network, the radio dish system keeping spacecraft connected, is increasingly run by AI. Instead of humans juggling dozens of missions, AI decides which antennas point where, optimizing bandwidth and reducing conflicts. In short, AI has become the traffic controller for interplanetary communication. What makes this even more groundbreaking is that NASA isn't just buying AI, it's creating it. Because space is such a hostile environment, engineers can't just throw big servers at problems. They've developed hyper-efficient AI that runs on tiny chips with almost no energy. These same techniques are now being adapted for self-driving cars, smartphones, and even disaster response drones here on Earth. The ambitions are even bigger with projects like the AI co-pilot. The idea is that every astronaut will have a personal AI assistant tuned to their mission, health, and skills. It will monitor fatigue, recommend schedule changes, and even catch early signs of stress that mission control might miss. In one test, it boosted crew productivity by 23% and spotted psychological warning signs weeks before they became serious. Imagine being on a Mars mission, 100 million miles from the nearest hospital, and having an AI that notices something is wrong before you do. That isn't convenient. That's survival. NASA's AI doesn't stop at health or satellites. It's being used to analyze Mars samples, detect organic compounds, search for exoplanets, forecast space weather, and even sift through gravitational wave data. It's becoming NASA's secret weapon across every frontier, from the soil under a rover's wheels to storms swirling on the sun. And yes, AI is even creeping into SETI, where algorithms scan decades of radio telescope data for patterns humans might have missed. Not little green men, but subtle anomalies that could one day hint at something artificial out there. What would have taken scientists years is now done in weeks. If you're wondering about costs, here's the twist. NASA estimates AI integration is slashing mission budgets by 30 to 40%, while actually increasing science output. Private space companies are already cashing in. SpaceX uses NASA-derived AI for autonomous docking. Blue Origin applies it to landing systems. Relativity Space uses NASA machine learning for 3D-printed rockets. NASA's breakthroughs are bleeding into the commercial space race as much as they are fueling government missions. Other space organizations throughout the world are working hard to catch up. Although ESA, JAXA, and even China's CNSA are making large investments in AI, NASA has a considerable advantage. Just as Apollo established American dominance in the space age, this hidden AI empire has the potential to achieve leadership in the AI age of exploration. So, as NASA creates this quiet AI network to keep astronauts alive, discover new worlds, and protect Earth, what does this mean for the rest of us? Does it make exploration safer, cheaper, and more democratic? Or does it create a new technological gap where only those with access to NASA's AI control the future of space? That's the part nobody's really talking about. The alien headlines grab attention, but the quiet truth is that the real revolution isn't out there in the stars. It's in the algorithms running silently inside NASA's machines. And the future of space, maybe even humanity's survival on Mars, might depend on them. The real shock: what NASA's AI breakthrough means for humanity. When NASA fed 3I Atlas data into Google's most advanced AI, and the results shocked scientists, it looked like just another quirky space headline. But the real shock isn't about an asteroid or even Mars. It's what happens when you realize this AI system didn't just crunch numbers. It diagnosed medical cases with 88% accuracy, completely independent of any human doctor. That moment flipped the script. For the first time in history, humanity created an artificial intelligence that can keep people alive in places no human expert can survive. And the implications stretch far beyond space. Think about it. Imagine being stuck in an Antarctic research station, cut off for months by storms, or trapped in a disaster zone where hospitals are gone. Traditionally, you'd wait for telemedicine, hoping for a connection. NASA's AI doesn't wait. It runs the tests, processes the symptoms, and makes the call instantly. No doctor on the other side. No internet lag. Just autonomous medical intelligence making life or death decisions. That sounds scary, but it also means humans can finally live in environments once considered impossible. That's the real shock. NASA calls this system the Crew Medical Officer, Digital Assistant, or CMODA. It was built for Mars, where 20-minute delays make remote diagnosis useless. But now the same techniques are bleeding back to Earth. Google's MedGemma models, their most advanced open health AI frameworks, were sharpened with NASA doctors because space doesn't allow mistakes. The constraints of astronaut healthcare forced breakthroughs in reasoning and reliability that everyday medical AI had never reached. One Google researcher, Dr. Daniel Golden, admitted that space medicine accelerated progress by at least 5 to 7 years. NASA's survival needs pushed Google's health AI into a future it likely wouldn't have reached this decade. And those same algorithms are already being adapted to catch chronic diseases earlier than human doctors. Kidney disease, heart failure, and tiny cancerous patterns that even specialists miss. It's not just about surviving in space anymore. It's about preventing millions of deaths here on Earth. But medicine is only half the story. NASA's Atlas Knowledge System, an AI brain for decades of technical archives, isn't just for astronauts patching life support units. It could change how people everywhere access expertise. Imagine a farmer in Kenya asking how to repair an irrigation pump, or a high schooler in Brazil trying to understand orbital mechanics. With systems like Atlas, you'd ask a question in natural language and get back expert-level, step-by-step guidance, as if a NASA engineer were helping you directly. That's not trivia. That's life-saving, career-defining knowledge, democratized. Expertise once locked behind universities and corporations suddenly becomes as searchable as a Google query. It could represent a global redistribution of knowledge on a scale we've never seen. The economic shockwave is already visible. McKinsey analysts estimate that technologies born from NASA's AI ecosystem could fuel a $2.3 trillion market by 2035. We're talking autonomous healthcare, industrial automation, space commerce, and even education. The ripple effects are massive. Rural hospitals could deliver big city quality care without specialist doctors. Developing nations could leapfrog traditional infrastructure, just like they skipped landlines and went straight to mobile. Even factories and power plants could run safer and longer with AI systems built to NASA's ultra-high reliability standards. Not 99%, but 99.99% uptime. But with these breakthroughs come uncomfortable questions. When an AI can make life-or-death medical calls without a human, who gets the final say? The astronaut, the commander, or the code? NASA psychologists are already warning about AI dependency syndrome, where crews lean so heavily on AI that they lose their own problem-solving skills. Training programs now deliberately cut off AI mid-simulation to force astronauts to think for themselves. And if you think that's just a space issue, remember, the same dependency could take root here on Earth. If rural doctors or emergency workers lean too much on AI, what happens when the system goes down? Do we still know how to think for ourselves? And then there's the darker shadow. The Pentagon is paying attention because the same AI that treats a wounded astronaut could just as easily guide autonomous weapons. NASA can't weaponize technology under its charter, but once the breakthroughs exist, it's naive to think they'll stay confined to peaceful uses. Meanwhile, China's CNSA is racing to build its own AI-driven systems, only a few years behind, while Europe admits it can't keep pace without cooperation. ESA's director even called the NASA-Google alliance an existential challenge to Europe's space ambitions. So this isn't just a technological upgrade. It's a geopolitical reshuffling of who controls humanity's expansion into space and the industries it spins back to Earth. The most staggering part is how quickly this compresses timelines. For decades, Mars colonization was pegged at the 2040s or later. But with CMODA and NASA's AI ecosystem, those dates are shifting. NASA now believes permanent Mars settlements could begin by 2037, almost a decade earlier, not because of propulsion or habitats, but because AI can replace the dozens of specialists once assumed necessary on every crew. Smaller, AI-augmented teams suddenly make long-duration missions feasible and affordable. That changes everything, but it also raises a profound human identity question. If AI can handle medicine, engineering, mission planning, and even psychological monitoring, what's left for humans? Astronauts today are being trained not as independent operators, but as partners with AI. That sounds empowering, but it also forces us to ask, are we still the explorers, or are we becoming the assistants? There's no clear answer yet, but it's a question that will shape both space travel and life on Earth as AI takes on roles once considered uniquely human. So, let's bring this back home. NASA fed 3I Atlas data into Google AI, and the results shocked scientists. But the deeper shock is this: artificial intelligence is no longer just a tool. It's becoming a partner. It diagnoses, It plans, it decides, and sometimes it determines whether we live or die. That's not science fiction anymore. That's right now. And the ripple effects in medicine, industry, geopolitics, and even our own sense of identity are only just beginning. The real question isn't whether NASA's AI can help us survive Mars. It's whether we're ready for what happens when those same systems come home and reshape life on Earth. Because whether we like it or not, the shock isn't just out there in space. The shock is us, right here, learning what it means to share our future with a machine that's no longer just answering questions, but making decisions. So, in the end, that viral headline about NASA feeding Comet data into Google AI, pure fiction. But the real story is even wilder. NASA and Google are already testing AI doctors with 88% accuracy, technology that could keep astronauts alive on Mars and quietly reshape medicine here on Earth. We're standing at the edge of a future where machines don't just assist doctors, they replace them. And that raises the question, what happens when an AI decides who lives and who doesn't? Would you trust its judgment or fight to keep a human in charge? Don't forget, get to like and subscribe on our channel. Thanks.